Hello YouTube world, finally back after 2 months of being gone. Hope to get a bunch of the projects that we've had underway finished and out of the way. I know that a lot of you guys have been waiting on it. That's including the 79 Ford F-150. I want to try to get that completed on this trip home. I travel a lot for work, so when I'm home is when I get a chance to do some of these projects. Hopefully I'll get to do some of them. When I left, it was still cold and miserable here in Arkansas. That's where I'm from. And now that I'm back, spring has sprung, and it's warm, it's humid, and there are bugs everywhere, and Lord knows there's a lot of other stuff. Before I left to go on the road on this last trip, I had a project underway with a Polaris four-wheeler. Somehow I deleted most of the footage from it. I'm going to go back and do a classic reenactment and try to get, through a little bit of it to give you an idea what that's going to be about, and that's going to be what this video is about right now. So without further ado, let's get started. We're going to work on a Polaris Sportsman 750 twin fuel injected four-wheeler. Now, as you can see, the power of television, I've already gone through and took the liberty of taking all the plastics off. Why did I do that, you say? Well, I actually had it on video before I left town. Had to order parts, didn't get here in time before I left town, so I couldn't finish the video. Somewhere through the course of all that operation, blah 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 blah, I lost that footage. So here we are. We're gonna work on getting this bad boy going. So this is what we're dealing with. I originally got this four-wheeler, it was in 1,000,000 pieces. Probably not 1,000,000, but a lot. It was all in pieces actually. The clutch had broke on it, the belt had broke, the clutch had went out, and it destroyed a bunch of stuff in here, and I had to replace. And then it had some severe wiring issues, which it still has some. Al, which you've seen in some of the other videos, got this for some work he done. And anyway, long story longer, I ended up with it in pieces and put it all back together, got it running, and kind of just stopped on it. I use it every great once in a while. I'm thinking about actually taking all of this and either maybe finding a Polaris Ranger somewhere that's got an engine out, something like that, and maybe swapping some stuff over. That might be a project for the future. But here's the thing. I already went through and done some diagnostic checks on this thing. And as you can see, these things have a lot of wiring. They have a computer. They're basically... Polaris is like a Subaru car. I believe that's correct. And I think they're made by the same company. But anyway, as you can see, there's the computer. I think you can see that. Yeah, right there. You see all this wiring. Then you have these weird little fuse things. And then that's what they are, they're fuses. But anyway, I did some preliminary checks because I couldn't get the thing to crank. And basically the fuel pump's out is what I've come up with. How did I figure that out, you say? Well, pretty simple actually. Test light had fire here at the wiring coming in, but nothing out of the pump itself. So anyway, ordered a pump. Here we are. We're going to try to get this off of here and try to replace it. So that's gonna be the plan. Stick with me and we'll see where we end up. So I don't know, I hope you guys can see everything I'm doing here. Basically, I'm gonna get the seat off. Like that. And I'm gonna try to get this tank off. I think it's already loose if I recall correctly, yeah. So basically just gonna take the fuel line off and unhook the wiring here and pull the whole tank off, and then we'll work on getting the pump out and putting a new one in and all that good stuff. So really, after you get the plastic off, mainly what you're going to do, this is a 1/4 inch socket and just take the fuel line off, and then you'll need a Phillips screwdriver to take the screws out of the top to get to the fuel pump. Actually pretty easy process here. Let's see if I can get you in here. Get you in here and get you a good look at what I'm doing here. You see the fuel line here? We use a Phillips screwdriver, flathead screwdriver on that. Luckily enough, it's a 1/4 inch socket, so that's what we're going to use to get the fuel line loose and go from there. Here is the wiring for the fuel pump. You need both hands. Fuel pump wiring. Pull that tab, unplug it. Can only go one way. So, pretty simple. Get this thing back far enough to where I can try to get the fuel line off. I need both hands for this, but I'm going to try to do it this way. Wow. Okay, probably going to have to set you down. Basically here, I don't know if you can see it or not, I'm just going to twist the fuel line until it breaks loose and try to ease it off like so. And we'll set this fuel line in that position to where we don't have a bunch of fuel spilling out. But you don't want to get any trash down in the top of this fuel line either, because this is a fuel injected system as well. So if you get a bunch of trash in here, you're going to have problems. Yeah, so tank is free now. We're going to pull the tank off, and then we'll take it over to the bench or table or sidewalk or something and continue the process. Bam! Just like that. Okay, I think I have you guys where you can see what I'm doing here. Fuel tank, you know, obviously the filler. This is where the fuel pump is. It's just like on a car. If you on a newer model car that's got a fuel pump internally, and the fuel tank is set up basically the same way. So one of the main things you want to do is, you'll see all this trash on here. We want to try to get as much of this stuff off of here as possible to keep it from falling down into the tank after we remove the pump. Also notice this too. Pay attention to the direction that the fuel pump element or module here is pointed. So you want to keep the same orientation, that way when you put it back on, when you put it back into the machine, the fuel line will reach to the spot it's supposed to be, and of course the electrical harness will reach where it's supposed to be as well too. So that's kind of what you want to do. Now, one of the things that you, like I said, you want to get all this crud off here that you can. If you have some air, you know, it's a good idea to blow it. I'm going to just get a rag here and wipe all this down. Alright, so I got some paper towels here. We're just going to take them and just get as much of this junk off as we possibly can. It's not going to be perfect, but you know, this tank too, it has fuel in it. I've been kind of tempted to maybe replace this fuel, but I smelt of it. I don't think that it's that old. I don't think that's the issue. A lot of this aftermarket parts that you put on these things are they're just not very good, and that's where we ended up here. I think in this position, it hasn't been rode in a while, and yeah, I think that's why we ended up where we're at. So I've cleaned it pretty decently. It's not perfect, but you can see I already had one of these screws loose. Make up your own jokes. So that's what we're doing. We'll just take all these off. Come on. And all the screws are loose. Okay, since I lost a lot of the footage in the original video that I was shooting for this replacement, I want to go through a couple things for you real quick. Well, you might have the question, how do you know the fuel pump's out? Well, I took a test light and I took my ohm meter. Let's just start with the test light. I went to the fuse, which is responsible for the fuel pump kicking on. Of course, I grounded my test light, cycled the key while testing the wires on the other end of the fuel pump, not this side. I'm just using this as an example. The side that plugs into this has fire. So I checked all the fuses. Fuses had fire and they were acting like they should. I tested the wiring coming into here when cycling the key, and I had the pulse, which was acting as it should. So the only thing left in line is the pump itself. Now, could there be a wire messed up in here? Sure, there could. The pump might not be bad, but the likelihood is the pump, since this thing hasn't been running a while, probably rusted up. It's just the way it is, especially with ethanol fuel. If you're running ethanol fuel in these things, you know, there's water content to it, and it can cause rust and issues like that. And the solenoids and things that are functioning inside of these pumps, they'll freeze up, rust up, and they're no good. So one big piece of advice for if you have a vehicle like this, which I should have listened to my own advice, you need to start it every now and then. Let it run, let it idle in your yard for a little while. Use Stay-Bil or a product like Stay-Bil in your fuel. Let that cycle through, follow the directions on the label, and that'll help protect it as well. But you just go through some basic checks. I start with, okay, do I have battery? Do I have 12 volts? Yes, I do. Okay, if I have that, I go to my ignition source or my key function, make sure I'm getting fire there. Go to the fuse, make sure, go to the fuse first if you can, if it's easy to figure out. But if you have fire at all those locations and you can trace it back wiring wise, go in that pattern. You don't have to have anything fancy. This, I think 12 bucks from Walmart. If you have fire, if you're getting the pulse that you're supposed to, knowing which wire to test is important, but you can find some of that information online as well. But anyway, when you're testing these things, if you go in that order, you can work your way down to the problem. And I'm pretty sure that this is going to be our problem. Now, when I pull this out, there's a lot of fuel in here, so it's a good possibility we're going to have spillage, so you want to keep that in mind. I'm going to try to ease this thing out and see what it looks like. Haven't had it out yet. Oh yeah, you can see a lot of rust. We might have another issue here. This fuel pressure regulator may end up being bad as well, and I did not get one of those, so it might be over before we start here. And you have to be careful, you don't want to tear any of this up, but these things are sometimes difficult to get out, and this one is going to be one of those times. So if you hear silence on the video, it's because I start cussing, and we don't want to put that on video. So anyway, here we are. Yeah, see how rusty that is? That's not from bad gas being poured into it either. This thing's rusting because it's drawing moisture, or because the fuel itself is just no good. Look at that, how that ripped that off. So yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. I don't know, I'm starting to reconsider, and probably will get rid of the fuel that's in here. And I have to find the screen that have tore completely off of the pump. So that's the next step. I'm not going to show you how I do that because I don't recommend it. So I'm just going to act like booth to the power of YouTube and video and all that good stuff. I'm going to get the strainer out like that. And just like that, the strainer's out. Man, this thing is in pretty rough shape. I did test the, I guess you would call the combustion of the fuel. I'm not going to tell you how I did that either, but I did, and it still ignites as it should. So remember, gasoline's dangerous. If you don't want to be doing this in an enclosed area, I'm doing this on under a carport. These fumes can escape. You don't want to be breathing it. You don't want to be around any kind of ignition sources. It could be a bad thing, so keep that in mind as well. And hey, like I said, my videos are not how-tos, it's how I do them. So do everything at your own risk. Yeah. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Let's have a look here. Man, this thing's in terrible shape. I'm actually shocked that it's in this bad a shape. So it's a lot of rust, and shouldn't be. I'm pretty sure this regulator, I'm gonna say this regulator is probably no good. So I can replace the pump as I'm going to, but there's a very good likelihood that we're not gonna be running until I get a new pressure regulator. We'll try it, we'll see. I'm not sure, but yeah, there's where we're at, guys. Anyway, I'm gonna cut this zip tie off and remove the wiring, paying close attention to which wire goes to what. And I'm going to remove the clamp and get this little hose, try to wiggle the old pump off, and then we'll try to install the new pump. That's going to be our plan anyway. What I'm going to try to do, take this and pop that off just like that. Loosen this fitting. I wish I would have took this on out before I ordered the parts, because I mean, this thing looks pretty rough. I can't believe it's in the shape that it's in, honestly. I'm pretty upset that it is, because like I said, I rebuilt this four-wheeler from the ground up, and all of this stuff here was brand new. I mean, I guess things happen, but definitely have some water content that was able to get into. Oh wow, it even broke that. Wow. Okay, well, yeah, we definitely have a water issue. I'm gonna have to figure it out. If I don't, we're not gonna gain any progress here. So maybe, I don't know. Now I'm knocking crap everywhere. This is gonna be fun now, trying to get this off without breaking the rest of this. Yeah, good times. I don't know exactly how I'm gonna go about doing that. Hold what you got, ladies and gentlemen. Hold what you got. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see what I'm doing here or not. I'll try to zoom in for you guys, but I'm gently trying to go back and forth and just wiggling this to try to open it up. These types of clamps are a lot of times you have to cut them. I don't have anything right here with me today to cut them with that I can find, so I'm just trying to expand it out to where I can get it off. You gotta be careful though, because it's be pretty easy to tear this up right here, and who knows, I may end up doing that. Really needs to have, this really needs to be cut. I can try to release it, but it's not cooperating. Well, maybe I did then. Maybe I got a little progress there. Nope, maybe I didn't. See the little tab right here, how this comes around on this tab. If you can unhook this, it'll open it up. I thought by doing some small prying that I could get that, but it's not happening. Anyway, here we are. What's that they put up in the videos? A few hours later, or moments later. Yeah, that might be where we're at, guys. Yay! You mother, you son of a. Anyway, I don't think I tore anything up, guys. Not sure yet. Gonna try to cut this off instead of pull it off, I think. And yeah, be right back. Got the trusty old pocket knife here. We're gonna try to get as much of this off gently as I can without destroying anything. I don't even know if you guys can see what I'm doing, really. All right. This is what the new pump came with. It's a Caltrek, I think is what it's called, pump. Looks like it'll work. Just like so. And we'll put a, yeah, I think we can make this all work. You know, this procedure I'm doing right here, actually, it's pretty much the same as even in a car if you're going to change a in-tank fuel pump. So you can apply this to a lot of different things, not just this. You want this tight, but you don't want to get stupid with it because this is plastic under here, and obviously it's not in the greatest shape. So you'd want to be careful if you're doing this. So just some advice there that you don't have to take. Now, one of the things that's going to be kind of tricky here. Oh, my battery's going to die. Let me get my battery changed. Be right back. This is a 2005 Polaris Sportsman 750 twin. So finding a replacement is a lot easier now, but back when I replaced this the first time, it was hard to find a replacement pump that was exactly what it's supposed to be. And I want to say this, I'm not 100% sure you would do your research, but I think it was a Hyundai Sonata fuel pump at the time was a replacement that would actually work with this. So you can check that out too. You may not be pigeonholed. You may be able to find what you're actually looking for. So anyway, what I'm going to do here is just going to do a quick comparison. Yeah, they look the same length, everything looks good. So we'll just put it all back together. This hose is much longer than the hose that was on here. So I'm going to have to, in my mind, try to picture that and make an adjustment and cut this off. So I'm just, and here's the thing, I'm just going to guess. I'm going to try to get it close. And basically by gauging where it's going to have to sit against the rod, and be done with it that way. That's going to be my best bet. It's not an exact science, I'll say that. So anyway, I'm going to cut this hose off. I think right in there is pretty good. I could be wrong. Y'all, you know, it's better to cut it a little bit still too long at first, and then where you can go back and trim it again if you need to. So that's what we're going to do. I think I have it long enough now that if something goes wrong, I can trim it again. You want this as square as you can get it. Obviously mine's not that great, but you know, usually these new pumps will come with a new zip tie. This one did not, for whatever reason. Go in there. Oh yeah, that's a tight fit. It would probably survive without a clamp on it. Good Lord. These will be marked a positive and a negative. I think that looks pretty good. I'm gonna get my zip ties. I think I have that on upside down. Matter of fact, I think I do. Pictures and video when you're taking this type of stuff apart is always a good idea. Anyway, I think that'll work. This is what I'm going to go with. It actually looks pretty much perfect, I would think. Now, if you go to stick this back in and you know you're hitting the bottom, before this is actually at a spot where it can seal off, well, you know that this hose is still too long and this needs to be brought up some more. I think I've actually nailed this pretty close, so pretty happy with that. I'm going to zip tie this and get it put back together. Alright, got a few zip ties here. Just going to latch this thing back down as best I can and we'll get it put back together. Pretty basic stuff here, guys. This is just going to, you'll notice how I put the zip tie on the internal of a rib here on this plastic piece. Basically what this is going to do is just going to secure it, try to keep it more of a straight thing. You can kind of see it's a little offset, but you know, it is what it is. You can only do what you can do with what you're working with. Now, I'm going to test this, and I don't recommend testing it the way I'm going to test it because it can burn your pump up, because you want the pump always in fuel when it's engaged. But our situation is a little bit different at the moment. I'm going to hook all my wiring up, run over, and hook it back up to the four-wheeler before I put it in and make sure the pump kicks on. If the pump does not kick on, I know I have another issue. So let's go try that right now. Okay, so you can see I have the wiring here, all that good stuff. I'm going to plug it back in. Like so. And I'm just going to turn the key on and make sure that the pump itself just kicks on. I'm not going to run it very long because it can damage the pump. As you can hear, pump's kicking on. I know the pump was the problem. So I'm going to unhook it again, go back over and finish the cleanup and get ready to do the install back into the tank. Boom, just like that. Alright, back with the fuel pump. We're going to stick her back in. We just tested it at the four-wheeler. We know that the electronic stuff is hooked up properly. It's working. We're going to put our screen on. I'm going to stick it back in and bolt her all down. Okay, so I'm going to say that this needs to be in this direction here. May have to get violent with this. I hope not, but if I do, I do. You can take something, a lot of times these things are just so hard to get on. Like with me, I try to tap one on. What is that Morsky says? Tap, tap, taparoo or something like that. Dead gummit. Go on there. Oh, God. We'll be right back after these messages. And we're back. After a couple of moments of talking to myself and caressing the new filter, I was able to just push it on gently and twist as I did and got it on. I do believe this is the orientation that it's supposed to be in when it goes back in. I'm not really sure because as you can tell when I pulled the old one out, the other one was disintegrated. So I think this is how we're going to do it. And I know that fuel goes that way. I don't know. It makes me think that this maybe goes this way. Well, you know what? We're going to twist it. Ruin it, I'm sure, but we're going to do it like that. I think that's how it's supposed to go on. And if I'm wrong, hey, it won't be the first time. And you want to be careful getting this thing back in here. You notice I did not put a clamp right here. Probably should, but that was such a snug fit. You know, I'm just not gonna, it's just another thing to catch on the side. If I can avoid putting it, I'm gonna avoid it. You know, to each their own, do your thing. Okay. Round of applause, we got it back in. Now, did we do it good enough? I don't know. I don't have a clue. So basically now all we're trying to do is line up the gasket with the holes and then line the holes up on this and keeping it in the proper orientation for the fuel line to hook back up. and put it back together, just like that. And as you can see, getting the screws back in. Now look, here's another thing too, another piece of advice. Go crisscross in a pattern kind of like you would when you're putting a tire on. You want this tight, but you don't want to get stupid with it, because getting stupid is pretty stupid. You want to just tighten it and do it in sections here like this. This is all plastic, and you know, this being a 2005 model, for instance, this plastic's old. You know, it doesn't take much to break something, strip something out. There it is. We're gonna go stick it back in the four-wheeler and we'll see if she'll fire up. Just kind of try to ease this back into place. I should have removed the snorkel. It's supposed to come out when you do this, but ladies and gentlemen, I just didn't want to. I'm trying to do this as quickly as possible, and sometimes that is not the proper way to look at it. Like right then, when I did that, and I wish I had the whole video series on this foiler, putting it all back together, because there was a lot of things I learned about fuel injection, things like that, that maybe I knew, but I didn't really know the importance of so much. If you have fuel pressure, especially, I can speak on this foiler in particular, these models, and it's confusing you because your fuel pump's kicking on and all those things, you might not be getting enough fuel pressure. It requires a certain amount of fuel pressure to kick on the injectors on these four-wheelers. So you could still have a fuel pump issue. Just keep that in mind when you're going through your diagnostic process. I learned that the very, very hard way. Alright. There's that. There's that. This battery might not be in great shape. It has been sitting for quite a while. But we're going to see if it'll fire up. Negative. Have to get the battery charged up. Alright, so we have the Harbor Freight, my new Harbor Freight battery charger. And right now that battery's only showing to have about 10 volts. We'll put a 40 amp boost on it. This will take a couple minutes. I don't know, I'm not going to recommend this. I just got this new charger. It was about $129 after 20% coupon. I needed a new charger. I wanted one with a little bit more flexibility and stuff I can understand. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it here on camera or not, but I do like this one function. I have it turned on and have the boost started, you know, pretty easy to read here. I have it on a 12 volt 40 amp boost, and it has it to 12 volts now. It was at 10. That's a really cool thing. You can kind of see where it's at. So let's see what we have. Yep. So I'm probably going to disconnect the battery and then put a charge on it, and then I'll be back. Alright, so I have the four-wheeler covered back up. We have a pretty good chance of rain. I've got the battery on the charger. I'm going to let it do a trickle charge. You know, get the battery where it needs to be. It won't take very long for you, but it might be tomorrow before I can get back to it. But in this video, it'll be right now. Alright, after a break letting the battery charge up and had to go to a birthday party, we're back at the four-wheeler. Just a little recap here for you. Fuel pump's back in. Everything's hooked up. Fuel line, wiring. Got the battery off of a charge where it says it's full. It's back in. And now we're just gonna see if we can't get it to run.
There we have it. Mission accomplished, and hopefully next few projects that we have with this bad boy will be a little more interesting. Alright, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one.